is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop about research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared from our students, faculty, and other members of our USC community.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Viterbi Voices. This is Emily Powis. I am a senior studying biomedical engineering.
And my name is Paul Ledesma, also one of your co-hosts, the Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
Awesome. How are you doing, Paul?
I am doing great. It's Friday morning. We're recording this on Friday morning. I have my coffee. I've done my yoga workout for the day already, and so I feel very loose and grounded. I'm ready for my day. We'll see how that goes throughout the day.
Nice. I didn't know you do yoga.
So I didn't either until this year. This year, it's been a new end of pandemic hobby. I now do yoga every other day, and so do about 45 minutes. I'm doing energetic flows. I'm working on that. I worked on my crow this morning. I did hen. I did baby crow successfully, and I'm getting closer to doing crow, which is really challenging, but I'm getting there. So.
That's super cool. I love
doing
the arm balances. I used to do it a lot, and then I tore my hamstring, so yoga was out of the equation for a little bit.
I feel like any injury takes you out of all yoga whatsoever. Yeah. Like I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. It's weird. I never thought I would get into yoga, and I'm like really digging it. And I feel sometimes I feel really weird doing it. And also I'm like a super competitive person. And so I get really mad at myself if I can't do something, like if I fall out of a pose, or like today I was like, I don't even know what the term is, but I was like doing this one leg balance, and my one foot was in one arm over here, and my left arm, my right arm's this way, and I'm twisted.
Oh, dancer's pose? It
wasn't dancer. It was like,
okay,
face forward, turn to your right. What leg went up? I don't remember. Maybe my left leg goes up this way and my right arm goes back that way, right? And so I'm just like holding on to that, and it slipped, and I got like my wife comes in at the end of the day, like I come back from yoga, or I come back from inside because I do it outside usually, and she's like, I don't think you're supposed to yell during yoga, because she can hear me curse when I get out of something. Anyway, that's a long story. But I love yoga now. And by the way, teaser for the end of this episode, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing this weekend, and it's related to yoga. But before we do that, let me tell you about this episode. And I'm sorry you weren't able to be there, but I know you already listened to it. This is one of our alumnae, and she is super cool. Jacquie Lowe graduated with her degree in industrial and systems engineering in 2016. She is this is the perfect episode for anyone who has been, let's say, gently pushed into engineering by their parents. And so like if you have a mom or dad saying like you should get into engineering, and you're just like kind of fighting them tooth and nail and you're not into it, listen to this episode, because I don't think she ever fought her dad tooth and nail, but I think that she was kind of gently pushed into it. I think she had the mindset. I think her dad knew that, and she found her way through this degree program and has now done some amazing stuff for a number of different companies and corporations. I don't want to tease it too much, but like you name it, she's worked on it. And she's now a budding entrepreneur. She has started her own business, which is super cool. And also a COO of a brand new startup, because she's completely left kind of the traditional work model behind. And it's super exciting to hear her journey. So I've wasted too much time in this intro. I'm sorry, Emily, but let's get out of the way and get it straight over to talk to Jacquie.
Hey, Paul, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a little while.
It's been a long while, and I honestly can't remember how long it's been.
I graduated 2016, so 5 years.
5 years. Wow. I can't believe it. It just seems like yesterday I was going through your LinkedIn profile and I was like, is it 2015? Is it 2016? I cannot remember. It's around that time period. Holy cow.
I know.
Well, you're looking good. Everything's going really well for you, it seems.
Yeah, everything's great. Very busy, but all good stuff. So can't complain.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. How's everything on your side?
Everything's great. Everything's great. This week in particular, it's a crazy week. We're getting ready to quote unquote go back to campus. So there's lots of behind the scenes moving and stuff like that happening. Just lots of little projects that keep popping up, but overall things are going very, very well.
Nice. Was last year just like all virtual event? I can't even imagine what that must have been like for admissions, and that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that if going into it, it was panic mode and not panic. It was just like scrambling. Like, okay, what are we going to do? Let's shift everything online. Luckily, we were ready for it, and we had we have a good team that we can make that run, and it was very successful. And then when we hit the summer, it was like, okay, let's keep doing that and expand. And then we did great stuff. VSAs, the student ambassadors did good stuff, and it worked really, really well. Being remote was really, really strong. I mean, no on-campus activity, no in-person interaction, which is weird.
Yeah.
It kind of gets you a little bit, but we're good now. Now we're going to go to stick with the virtual for now, and we'll have a little bit of in-person maybe as we go. But everything, I use this sentence probably twice a day, 3 times a day. Much is in flux, so you never know.
Yeah,
never
definitely. Yeah, nice.
Well, welcome to our podcast. This is exciting. Are you a big podcast listener?
I am a very big fan of Armchair Expert, which is Jack Shepard's. That's like, I listened to it. I just got a notification the other day. You're in the top 6% of listening. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I listen more than most people. So
holy cow.
Very obsessed. I love it, but I've never been on one. So this is definitely new.
Well, this is your first entry into the Armchair Expert type world. I listened to that as well. I'm very well versed in that podcast. I enjoy it a lot. Have you listened to their new one with Kristen Bell and Monica?
I did. Yeah, I started listening to that. It's really good. I listened to the Abby Wambach one. I think that's her name, the soccer player. Really interesting perspective on just like women and in the workplace and like the pay gap and all of those topics. So really, really interesting stuff they touch on.
Fascinating. If you haven't done so, if you like Armchair Expert, I also recommend to all my friends Smartless. If you haven't listened to Smartless.
I haven't, no.
It's like the same realm of, it seems like the same friendship of Hollywood people. Like they're all buddies. Like they're all friends with Jimmy Kimmel. And so like they all just have inside jokes and they all interview their friends. So it's very funny. It's Jason Bateman and Will Arnett and Sean Hayes. And they all get together.
Oh, nice. That's an awesome group.
I'll
check it out.
That's a fun one. That's on the rotation. Well, Jackie, welcome. And this is, Emily couldn't be here today. She's going through a lot of stuff as she wraps up her end of the summer. So I apologize for that. It's boring. You just get me. And to our listeners out there, I'm sorry, you just get me. But Jackie, why don't you start off by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself as far as like where you came from and how you found yourself at USC.
Okay. So I'm Jacquie Lowe. I'm from Los Angeles, born and raised. I still live in LA now.
What part of LA did you come from? Sorry, I'm jumping in right away. I'm not even letting you talk.
No, you're totally good. No, please do. I grew up, when I was first born, I lived in Ladera Heights, which is on the west side, and then moved to Culver City for a while, and then went to USC, and then now I'm back on the west side again. So I'm in Ladera Heights now.
Oh, too. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Ladera Heights is an awesome part of town. It's always one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. It's like right in the middle of everything.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'll tell people that are from LA that I'm from here, and there's so many people that don't know of Ladera Heights, even though it is so central. So it's kind of funny.
Awesome. So you're in Ladera Heights. Cool. And you grew up in that area, Ladera Heights, Culver City area.
Grew up over here, went to high school in Sherman Oaks. So I went to private Catholic at Notre Dame High School.
Oh, Notre Dame.
Yes. So that was a bit of a drive. For those not from LA listening, it's like going from the west side to the valley is quite a stretch. Yeah. So it's like 45 minutes each way. But for me, it was more about finding a school that had a really strong athletics program And also coming from a very small elementary school it was private Catholic, also 30 kids per class, and you're with the same kids from K to 8th. It was just one of those things where I was like, I want the football games and the Friday Night Lights experience. So kind of went for it and ended up at Notre Dame in the Valley, which was awesome. And then found my way to
45
USC.
minutes, that's a good day. I mean, that's a good day, 45-minute drive.
Yeah, agreed. And luckily, like, I played a lot of sports, so we had very early lifting sessions at like 6 a.m. So I would usually be beating a lot of the traffic, and then I'd have games through the evening. So not too terrible.
What'd you play in high school?
Freshman year, I played basketball, and then decided I hated all the running, so I stopped. But I also freshman year through senior year also played volleyball. That was my main sport.
Volleyball. Awesome. I'm currently trying to indoctrinate my daughter into any sport, to be honest with you. And it's becoming a reality to me that she has no interest, and it's really bumming me out. But like,
how old is she?
She's 6. And so trying to get her into something, and like, of course, soccer's kind of like hit or miss each week. Like, I might want to do it, I might want to quit, I don't like it, and then I have fun with my friends. And then volleyball has been the latest one. So we've been doing every weekend beach volleyball classes, and I'm like, this is it. This is it for you. You're going to be tall. You could do this. Come on.
Yeah. I feel she's pretty young still. She's got time. I didn't even get into sports till I was probably in like 6th grade.
Okay.
So I think she's got some time to figure it out.
Okay, cool. So volleyball was the main sport, and you're at Notre Dame High School, and what made you look at USC?
So USC has been a through and through like passion for my family forever. My dad went to USC also, so grew up in that Trojan family. He's like huge into the football games, the tailgating. So before I could walk, was basically wearing a Song Girl outfit. So it was one of those stories, like it was the dream to go there. Tried to apply myself to have the skills to get in, and then luckily it all worked out. So it was kind of a no-brainer, honestly.
Awesome. Did you always want to stay in the LA area, like regardless of USC? Did you want to was this LA, Southern California through and through?
I mean, I definitely thought about it. I applied to schools kind of all over, like everyone does. I applied to some schools in Texas and, Indiana, and none really all the way on the East Coast. But I thought about it. I was like thinking, I think my concern was, if I stay local, will I really branch out and discover myself like everyone says you will in college, and the whole cliche. So it definitely crossed my mind, but I think in the end, you get so submerged into the day-to-day of college. You're living there. So even though maybe it's 20 minutes from your parents, it still feels like your own experience. So in the end, just did it anyway. And honestly, it was the best decision I could have made. So I'm glad I stayed in LA. And I think it's also just a hard place to leave, it is. You got the beaches, the weather. It's, I don't know if I'll ever leave LA, honestly.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Are you from here?
I'm from Orange County. I grew up in Orange County, and then I went to USC. But once it was always kind of like a thing of like, once I leave Orange County, I'm not going back. And so just the LA area in general, and then what you said, like the beaches and everything, it's just, you can't do wrong. You can't do better than this. So why would I love to travel, love to visit. I tell my wife all the time, I love to travel, love to visit places. I'm fine visiting all those places. I love living here, although it's a very expensive place to live.
100%. And you learn that lesson real quick once you graduate. It's like, all right, off into life.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
Oh my God, that's how much all my bills are. Like, what is this?
Totally. Real life hits you quick. So like when you're looking at schools, was it like, it seems like the underlying thread there was like a bigger vibe, spirit vibe, like, that college experience, the kind of like, I want to love where I go, and kind of have that alumni sticker all the time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's 100% right. That was a big part of it. I just knew I wanted to be somewhere that felt like me. And I think for me, that was having both the really like rigorous academics, and knowing that there was also a really strong network tied to the school, because, and I am just, especially after graduating, have realized the strength of the network, that you would always hear like, oh, Trojan family, it's, going to get you, you're going to meet awesome people. And, you drink the Kool-Aid, and that's awesome. And then, once I graduated, I've had so many experiences and opportunities open themselves up to me because of the USC network. So I think that was a big one, even early, of like, I know I want to go somewhere with a strong network. And then also, you know, in addition to having like the academics and all of that obviously being the priority, wanting to have fun, you know, like work hard, play hard, go to the football games. I did Greek life when I was at USC, so having that experience was super fun. All of that played a part.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. So you find yourself at USC, and as much as, you know, your dad probably beat it into you that you were going into USC. Your dad's hardcore, right? You're a hardcore alum and an engineering alum too, right?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of pushing, gentle or otherwise, in this direction. But you find yourself at USC. You're your own person. You're there. It's a relatively big place compared to any high school. How did you start navigating those first years? What did you start to reach out to as far as involvement wise? And what are things that you thought you wanted to do? You end up, you realize I don't. What are things you discovered all along the way? What was that transition like for you?
That's a good question. I think I knew, like I said before, I did do Greek life. So I think that was one thing that almost felt like a comfort, knowing, hey, if I go through this process of rush, you're automatically going to have 200 girls that are now supposedly your friends, right? So it's kind of that like family initially when you get to the school that makes it a little less intimidating because you're part of this group out of the gate, which I think it's actually changed. I'm not sure. I know when I was there, it was like the first week of classes, you were going through that whole recruitment process, which it's a little overwhelming, to be honest. So it's probably for the best.
It is.
but it was good. You know, I met a lot of people. I'm still really good friends with a lot of those girls. So that was one thing I knew I wanted to do. My sister also, she went to U of A, but she did the whole Greek life thing and loved it. So that was one thing I definitely knew I wanted to do. As far as things I thought I would like, I honestly thought that I was going to continue doing like intramurals and things because I did play sports so much. And I honestly didn't really get into it too much, not by lack of wanting to. I think just got carried away with other things and never got into it. And then senior year, I took a volleyball class just because I had extra credits and thought it'd be fun. So that was kind of the extent of that.
Okay. And you ended up studying industrial and systems engineering. Was this always the plan?
Right. No. So when I first got to USC, even prior, I guess, to applying, you know, you always have to most often declare what you want. I think there's options, as you know best. You can put just generic engineering or you can come undeclared. But I figured if I apply for one of what I thought was one of the harder majors, it'd be easier later if I changed my mind to switch into something else. So it was kind of like the safe move, I guess. So when I first applied, I was an electrical engineering major.
And your dad was an electrical engineer.
Yes, he was. So that probably definitely played a role.
The guiding hand, yeah.
Exactly. So I started off as that. And then it was, I want to say midway through sophomore year, I just wasn't super passionate about what I was learning. I think a lot of the core skills of, you know, problem solving and all the things that are aligned with engineering in general, I still really liked. It's just some of like the classes around building circuits and all of those things just weren't things I could see myself doing longer term. And I started to do more research on careers and just didn't really see that lining up with what I wanted to do. So I thought a little bit more like a business focus, a little bit less technical made more sense for me. So I switched to industrial and systems engineering and I loved it. So it was definitely the right move.
Great. I think that it's funny. I was just on a call with a prospective student right before this. And so many of our students, in the kindest way possible, are basically asking me, so I have this plan in my head of exactly how my life's going to work out. Will it work out that way? That's kind of how like every one of their questions run. What would you do if you're talking to a group of high school students that think that way? Like, how would you tell them about their life in the future? Because their parents tell them this all the time. They just don't believe them.
Yeah, I think that's so tough. I mean, life is going to take you in so many twists and turns. And honestly, even like my professional path and the careers and decisions I've made, I couldn't have guessed in a million years that where I am right now is where I would be when I was going into college. And I think it's okay not to know and okay to just say yes to a bunch of different things and see where it takes you. So I get that anxiety and that feeling of college is this place and it's magical and I have to know all the answers, but realistically, college is the time to experiment with a lot of different interests, see what you like, meet people that have different opinions and pivot and keep pivoting and learning and taking nuggets from all of those experiences and then really building you. And I think for me, that's been one of the ways of just saying yes and taking opportunities many outside of my comfort zone to really figure that out. So I think for someone who's not sure, just go for it and be open to the twists and turns. And honestly, they're probably going to be better than if you stick with just what you think because someone told you that's what you should be doing, or you think it's the safe bet.
Right. So I'm going to push back a little bit because the majority of our audience says, oh yeah, sure, that works for you, but you don't understand me. I'm an engineer and I am definite in my plans. Like, there's always that pushback of like, yeah, that applies to those people that are like liberal arts majors, like that. That's kind of what the internal high school confident pre-engineer thinks. It's like, so how do you say like, yeah, I know you think that's true for them, but this is also true for you.
That's hard. I mean, honestly, for me, like when I was a VSA also, I think just like speaking to your experiences and showing them how it does apply to engineering. Yeah. So for instance, like my journey, as I mentioned, I switched from electrical engineering to industrial and systems engineering.
Yeah.
And then through some of the courses I had, senior year in particular, actually, I guess if we even go back further, I had a bunch of different internships while I was at USC. So I had one job that was like a technical sales position. So you had to have some engineering knowledge to really sell the product. Didn't love the sales piece of it. Learned some awesome skills of how to talk to people and how to pitch things because you need that regardless.
Sure.
Then went into working at Southern California gas company. So I got into utilities and process and data analytics. Learned a lot of awesome things, but was not super passionate about, working on utilities. So moved on to another one that was at American Express. Same idea, learned a lot of great things around process transformation and system implementation, but were financial services what I wanted? Not really. And so I think it's those like strings of like, no, this isn't what I like, are just as strong as the yes, I like these little pieces and I'm going to use that to kind of build what I think I want and what I'm interested in.
Right.
And so even in engineering, hey, I want to go in and do electrical engineering because it's a stable job and it sounds hard and I want to challenge myself. Your passions will change as you grow, and what your interests are, you don't even know at that point until you've really tried and just dove into the deep end.
I think you just said something that triggered me of something I want to tell people. Now that I should probably write this down. You probably want to go into engineering because it's a stable job. But what I want you to know is that your engineering education provides you stability in an unstable job market, regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the issue, is that it's your education, your training, your ability to do things that keeps you stable regardless of what your job is. It's not like, oh, I have the engineering job, so therefore I'm good. It's like, or the aerospace engineering job or the electrical engineering job. It's your engineering education that takes you
100%. There. Yeah. And like I was saying, I think it's you learn a lot of transferable skills through engineering that apply across so many industries. So even if like right now, and we can get into, I guess, my journey after USC in a little bit, but I am working with some other USC alums who I met from Viterbi actually on building out a digital marketing agency, which most people in engineering, that's quite a departure. It's like, okay, like, do you know marketing?
Yeah.
Did you learn that in school? My answer is no, but I learned a lot of skills in order to run the operations of this company, scale it, understand how we can like offer different services, how we can be successful from a problem solving perspective for our clients. So even if, you take those twists and turns that don't align with the traditional engineering background or traditional engineering job, you will have the skill set and the toolbox, to your point, to find that stability, find those jobs, and, you'll be fine.
I totally want to touch on that stuff, but I don't want to lose track of something. And I'm the one adding to the confusion here, so I apologize. But let's pause for a moment and talk about industrial and systems engineering. Like, there's so many words that you used. You talked about like process engineering. I think you talked about process management. You talked about data analytics. You talked about financials. You talked about just building and scoping, technical sales. And then when someone hears industrial and systems engineering, it's the worst title for a degree program ever, because all you can think about is a big factory and like some sort of old school, like, smokestacks type situation. So can you help people understand what industrial systems engineering is, and then maybe kind of walk through what were the classes that you took and what did you end up doing there? And then I totally want to get into your career, because it's super fascinating and interesting. And I think that when people know what it is, they would be super fascinated about it.
Yes. I'm reeling myself back in.
So no, it's not your fault. I'm the one that's like, let's keep going. I'm like, oh no, we gotta slow down.
Totally fine. So industrial and systems engineering, I think the best way to describe it is looking at things from a systematic perspective. You're understanding kind of the building blocks systematically to make something operational, efficient. And I think looking at it from a course perspective, because that might be the easiest way, is you touch on a lot of different pieces, right? You'll have your core components that every engineer has, like the math and the physics and those kind of math and sciencey based courses, but you'll also have classes learning about database structuring. So if I were to build a system, what are the components that go in the back end to make this a successful database to actually run and store that information, right? So you learn things from how to actually build systems, understand the information that needs to be part of it, while also that data means nothing unless you know how to report on it. So you also have classes in data analytics, data visualization, and some of these things may differ depending on which path you take within industrial and systems engineering. I think there are some that are a little bit more like manufacturing focused and things like that. So that absolutely can be part of it. And another piece too is looking at process transformation, process documentation. So what I mean by that is, I'll take my senior design project as an example.
Yeah.
We got paired up with a company, and you would basically go in as their short-term consultant. They would give you a problem statement and you would help them solve it. So for us, it was myself and two other ISE majors who worked with Northrop Grumman. And so our project was to understand their full end-to-end process for any time a piece of an airplane is created. It goes through basically this oven to make sure that it is up to code and standard for how they create these products. Mm-hmm. And they were having these bottlenecks in that process that were stopping it from being as efficient as possible. So we went in, we understood the current state of how that process functioned. We then identified anywhere that there were pain points. Why was this being held up? Why were these things delayed? Why aren't they, why is there so many errors or issues? So that whole process, and then re-engineered that process to say, hey, if you get rid of X, Y, and Z, and you move this piece a little bit closer to where the oven is, it's going to save you time and efficiency. So that's kind of an example of, from a process perspective, some of the things you learn as well. And you'll learn in your courses tools like value stream mapping, which are ways to actually document out that process. So it's a very long-winded way of saying it touches on process, it touches on how to build out actual systems and databases, how to visualize and report on different data. And also, I think another piece important to note is you do also get some components of business. So I did take a couple courses in economics, I took a couple courses in accounting. So you kind of touch on so many different pieces that give you the holistic view into a business as well.
Absolutely. It's the engineering of the real world. Right. It's
exactly.
where the engineering concepts go into the real world that meets with business analytics and bottom lines. And there's a lot of mathematical modeling in between. Mm-hmm. And there's just you being a human being trying to help understand how other human beings would live and work in this process to make things better, as simple as that sounds, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you learn these principles of lean, which is a concept that comes from manufacturing for the most part, of how do you take these things and make them work the best and get rid of all of the waste. And that was a big concept that I definitely heard and learned about through many of the courses that I took. And you can apply that in manufacturing, you can apply that in really any industry at all. Very cool.
And so you go through this education at USC in industrial systems engineering. When you look back on it, was there one particular class that you're like, it always keeps coming up, like a class or a lesson where you're like, oh, that was that class again. Like you keep hitting it in your day-to-day?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, just because of where my career went, that design project class, which is like your senior capstone, was the most impactful, I would say. The process documentation, understanding how business is run, all of that has been, I went into consulting, which again, we can talk about in a little bit. But it was one of those things that every time I had a new project, it was, all right, we're going to put together a value stream map. We're going to understand the process. We're going to lean this out. And I used that on countless projects, and that was all within media entertainment. So as you can see, taking these concepts from Northrop Grumman and aerospace through to working at somewhere like Disney, it's kind of crazy, but those skills still work. And I used some of the same tools that we used in college, all of that. So I would say that class. And then I also had the database modeling class, which was a huge help. Like I said, went to work with a lot of companies on building out enterprise solutions and systems. And so a piece of that was architecting their databases and understanding what data needed to exist, how it needed to communicate with one another. So those, that class, I mean, learning how to put together those diagrams and how different data communicates was completely essential to be successful at that.
So I often talk about how industrial systems engineering is like the world's worst named degree because it doesn't say
Yes.
what you actually do. Let's workshop some ideas here. What do you think we should rename that? What should that degree be called? Because it is not one thing. That's the hard part.
That's a $1 million question. I do think systems is appropriate. You do work on a lot of systems and kind of the architecture behind that. So maybe systems and process engineering or
enterprise systems engineering.
Yeah, I think that would be a fair name for it. I think you definitely do more than that though.
More than that. Okay. Too narrow.
That's the tricky, I could say a little too narrow. I mean, enterprise systems and
it's getting longer. It's getting longer.
Hard. It is. I need like 20 words whenever people ask what I do or what I studied. I'm like, how much time do we have?
Right.
So I have a lot to say.
I am an efficiency expert. That's what you are. So you go off and you start looking at jobs. And before we land on what you actually ended up doing, you had taken these internships. You said with like it was American Express and the gas company. You were kind of like moving around Northrop. You said Northrop Grumman was for your senior project though, right?
It was. I also had an internship at Providence Medical Center, so I did some healthcare. Wow. I was all over the place. Yeah.
Wow. Which Providence is so huge? Were you at a specific hospital?
I was at one in Tarzana, which was a commute. Wow. But someone kind of took it. It was like it was the first internship I got like the yes to, and I was like, I just have to do this because I need some experience, and someone's got to take a gamble on me. So I just did it, and I commuted. So it was a little rough.
Wow. Very cool. So you've worked in healthcare, you've worked in the financial district, you've worked in utilities, you've worked in some way in defense. And so you're out in this like job market. It's senior year, you're hunting down jobs. Did you have an industry you were targeting for? You mentioned consulting. Was it always consulting or was that one of the options? What was going through your mind at the time?
It was one of the options. Consulting was something, quite honestly, that intimidated me a little bit. Sounded like such a wide net of, well, you could do this or you could be working on that project.
Yeah, tell me about because there is this like mythical lore of like, well, you could be a consultant, and then like whoever's telling you that is like weighing that word down with so much. So let's pretend we don't know what you do, and let's talk about what do you hear about consulting? What are the good things? What are the bad things? And also, what are the everything in between?
Yeah. Do you mean before I actually knew what consulting was?
Yes.
Or
yes.
No? Okay.
Yeah. So like you said, like someone says, hey, look into consulting.
Yeah. I think you hear the good things or the appealing things, at least for me, where you're going to work with a lot of different companies. You're going to get a lot of exposure to different types of people, different industries, different business units, which I thought sounded really cool. I think the cons, you constantly hear, you're going to be traveling Monday through Thursday every week. So you're never going to be home, which was one of actually the big reasons consulting turned me off personally, because I'm a giant homebody.
And attracts a lot of others.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's a good way to see the world for sure. I think it's also a grind, and I'm not going to say that one is falsified in any way. Consulting, definitely. I think a lot of people do get burnt out. You hear about that because you're grinding for your client. I think for some bigger consulting firms, this is not true of all of them. You hear that you're kind of like a cog in the bigger wheel. So, there's a lot of different components and considerations, I think, to it. But at least for me, the appeal of the positive things, and I actually ended up finding a smaller consulting firm that a lot of the cons, in my opinion, weren't a part of. So I kind of lucked out and got the best of both worlds.
The industry itself has and then jump in, we got like PricewaterhouseCoopers, we got Accenture, we got Bain and Company, Deloitte. There's some healthcare consulting like GE healthcare. Those are kind of the big players. KPMG, because like the accounting firms also have consulting, technical consulting arms as well. So they're kind of all out there, and they recruit engineers like nonstop.
They do.
People seem to think that they hire business majors. Like, no, they're coming straight over here for the engineers because of, again, that stability, that ability to do more things. the technical know-how, the mathematical skills.
Yeah.
They're not looking for business majors for those positions.
Some are,
So,
but yeah, I would
maybe
say a
there's
lot of
few.
them are going for the engineers. And a lot of people that I went to school with at USC ended up going into consulting. I think out of all the people that I was pretty close with, I would say 80%, maybe that's high compared to normal, but 80% of them went into consulting. It's just, I think it's a good way to balance, like I was saying before, kind of those technical pieces, and the big business acumen together into a role. And that's exactly what it is.
And you went with on-prem solution partners, right?
I did, yes, which is a much more, I don't think they like to be called boutique, but a smaller.
Well, compared to these
firm.
bigger ones, and that's not at all a negative term.
No, and there's, I think right now, they're probably at about 200, 250 folks. So
okay,
pretty small.
What is on-prem?
So on-prem is a consulting firm. The main area that they focus in is in media and entertainment, as well as some consumer products and goods. I personally worked only within the media entertainment realm, but we basically will work with clients, or I don't work there anymore, but I'm still so used to it. They will work from the full end-to-end system development lifecycle. So a client, let's say a studio, would come to them and say, hey, we really want to build out this system that does, let's see, for me, like I built out a full franchise calendar for a media company. So they could see all of their releases for given movies across their consumer products and toys, through to what movies were coming out, what comic books were coming out, what TV shows across their franchises, to make informed decisions for their marketing department. So as an example, they would come and say, hey, we want to build this. Can you help us do that? We would say, sure, sounds great. We collect all of the requirements from the users, run workshops. We would design the solution, implement it, do full end-to-end testing, train the users, and then ultimately roll it out. There are a lot of instances too where there's an ask for, we don't really know what we need, but we know our process is really bad. So can you help us? And then you would go in and say, sure, let's look at how you do it today. Let's figure out, kind of similar to what I was saying at Northrop Grumman, let's figure out where your inefficiencies are and come up with a better way to do this. And then you would really help from that strategic standpoint of re-engineering their process, and then helping them through understanding different solution options, and even doing the vendor selection of, okay, you could use this solution, A, B, or C. Let's look at pros and cons. Let's weigh it out and kind of go through that whole process. So it's a very large breadth of things that you can do there. And there's definitely others that I didn't touch on, but I would say those are some of the bigger pieces of examples.
And on-prem, I've heard so many other students have gone to work for on-prem, and it seems like Disney's one of their big clients.
Yes.
There's a lot of work
when I was there,
Disney.
I mean, that's one of the awesome parts I think that intrigued me, is I worked with companies. I was there since I graduated until the end of this February. So about 5 years. And in just that time, I had worked with Disney, Warner Brothers, DC Comics. I worked with NBC Universal, Paramount. So they have connections and relationships across all of these big, entertainment companies that I think, especially being from LA and like seeing, all the posters and the billboards, it's like, it's a cool thing. And it sounds exciting. So it definitely drew me in.
And I think that a lot of people misunderstand working in the consulting industry. Is like, when you're working on this, you're essentially working at that company, right? Like you're not like you have an on-prem like paycheck, but like you're going and working at Warner Brothers. You got this project, you got end to end, you got to figure it out. You're working on their behalf. And that's the fun part about consulting too, is that you might shift a client, you might stay with a client the entire time based on what types of scale of the project that they need, right?
That's exactly right. So that's actually the reason on-prem is called on-prem, which is confusing, but
where does that name come from?
They go on-premise of the client. So we don't have in LA a physical office. We all just go get integrated directly with the client. And that's why they call it on-prem. So yeah, you go into the office every day, onto the studio lots. You're basically one of the team with your client, and that's honestly the best part, is you really become their partner. It doesn't always feel like you're just, you're not speaking at them of, okay, here's our recommendation, here's what you need to do, and you're the separate entity. You really do get entrenched with the client. You build really great relationships and even friendships with them, and become basically a part of their team, oftentimes to the point where they want to keep people on for a very long time. I was on projects ranging from 12 weeks through to like a year and a half.
Wow.
So it definitely depends. And I know people who are on even longer than that. So it depends on the project, the scope of what you're doing, but it's definitely fun.
That's awesome. I remember hearing, and I don't remember the exact source of the story, so I can tell it because I have no idea whether it's true or not. But I remember hearing that on-prem was working with Disney and because it was basically like this like cybersecurity issue because the Avengers trailer got like leaked, right? I don't know if did you ever hear anything about this? Do you know anything about this? Or are you allowed to talk about this? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Maybe continue.
Okay. So at some point it was like, there was this, and I don't remember, again, I'm removing all details honestly, because I don't know them. And I don't want to claim that I do, but it was like, there was this thing where like the Avengers trailer leaked, and that actually was a giant cybersecurity issue because an on-prem was brought in to deal with all of these, I don't know, security wall issues, like basically like software, cybersecurity stuff. Because what ended up happening is that like Disney and a bunch of people lost a lot of money because they had partnerships to release the trailer or have these ad buys or ad tie-ins or product merchandise stuff. And this everyone thought it was an assumption that it was like this like marketing strategy to quote unquote leak the trailer. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Disney just lost a ton of money and we're being hired to go and make sure this never happens again.
Yeah, on-prem does have a specialization within like security and IP management and all of that. So I know that they were involved in some things around another movie that takes place in space that I probably can't speak to, but they do a lot of that. So that's a big piece of that. I'm not sure about this specific example.
Okay,
I would believe you, but I'm not sure.
I actually am not being coy. I remember hearing something like that. I remember on-prem Disney, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see.
They
no
definitely
claims.
do that. And then also, I mean, I personally fell within kind of two pieces. One was IP and rights management. So if, let's say, a studio creates some TV show that they want to sell to HBO, that whole process of how that gets negotiated, how that gets, passed along basically between the two was a big piece that I was part of as far as the systems and process related to doing that. And then later during my time there was focused on CRM, which is customer relationship management, specifically within Salesforce. So I became doing expert in all things Salesforce and was implementing those solutions the last couple of years.
And that seems like the natural transition to tell us what you then went on to do, because you left your lucrative, successful, almost 5-year-long stint at on-prem, and you're now in the startup world, right? Full time?
Yes, full time. So kind of two things. One's a little bit more of a passion project for me, but while I was still at on-prem, I started my own e-commerce site. It's called Heron and Pine, Heron and Pine. And it's a women's hat company, which is a complete departure from everything else that I had done. But kind of just wanted to get my toes wet in the idea of what if I start something? What if I just go for it? Don't really have experience, but just use my problem solving research skills and just do it. So while I was at on-prem, I started to build that out.
Wait, are you designing hats?
I am designing and selling hats online. Yes, exactly.
I'm on the site right now. This is amazing. And I'm debating whether I show my wife this because it's either going to cost me a lot of money or she's going to want to join your business, or both.
Amazing. Yes. All the things for your wife, please. But yeah, so I started that, which was last October. It'll be a year in almost exactly 2 months from now, which was wild. And I just loved the amount of, fulfillment that I was getting from that. And although I loved what I was doing at on-prem, I thought, I think it's kind of time to become my own boss and really dive headfirst into the entrepreneurial world and just do it. And so I actually reached out to one of my good guy friends from USC who he was in Viterbi also. He was a computer science major. I met him through my dorm like freshman year, and we've just been good friends ever since. And I knew he had done a bunch of different business ventures and different things in entrepreneurship. And he happened to be looking for a chief operation officer for the digital marketing agency that he had just kicked off, which is Web Upgrade, where I work now. And he's like, we're just getting started. We'd love for you to come on and kind of help get this off the ground. Are you interested? And I just said, yeah, let's do it. So took a lot of the skills I learned from Salesforce, which touches on sales and marketing, and brought that into Web Upgrade. And we've been building it ever since.
So Web Upgrade optimizes your website. So let's say I'm a small business. Let's say I own a hat designing company called heronandpine.com. What would Web Upgrade do for me? Why would I want to engage with Web Upgrade?
There's a couple things. Our key specializations are website design and development.
Okay.
So if for a new customer or someone who has an existing site, we'll go through and help understand from an optimization perspective how to design it so that you're getting your highest conversions and engagement, as well as fully develop that out so that it's a live site. In addition to that, we also specialize in search engine optimization, which is often called SEO, which helps you rank highly on search engines. So when you search for women's hats, let's say, you want to be in that first page of Google, because 92% of all clicks are going to go to that first page, and hardly anyone moves past the first page. So if you're really not in those first 10 results, you're losing a bunch of the traffic and the customers that you could be getting. So we help optimize both from the website perspective itself, as well as what's called offsite SEO, which basically helps drive traffic to your site via other websites. So for instance, we might write a blog for Heron and Pine that says best fall hats for 2021. And then we're going to go reach out to other online outlets to help them link to that blog so that you get more traffic from people going to those sites. So there's a lot of other pieces that go into it, but very simply put, we work on those two components, as well as we do have a proprietary product for speed. So if your website loads slowly, you're losing a significant amount of the traffic that could convert into paying customers. So we help clients also optimize their speed.
Wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And how are you feeling now that you've left that, for lack of a better term, the grind of consulting and now entered into the grind of entrepreneurial startup space? Because it's a whole other thing about grind and stuff.
100%. It is definitely still a grind. It definitely in a little bit of a different regard, because you're kind of your own boss and you're setting that grind for yourself. But that's to say, you also, I think, have there's a lot more that you own yourself, right? When you work for a company, they're taking care of a lot of the operational things and the financial tracking and all of those kind of operational components. And you kind of focus on your one project or maybe a few, and that's kind of your day-to-day. When you're at a startup, everything is your responsibility, right? So it's a lot, but it's also been, I feel like I've learned so much in the last, what has it been, almost 6 months now at Web Upgrade, just because I've had to, and you've got to get up to speed quickly. And, we've been really successful in building out partnerships, which has really helped us grow, but there's just so many different ways to look at a business and to grow it and invest in it. So it's crazy, but yeah, the grind is real. It's definitely a grind.
Oh man, it's really funny because you're describing that idea for consulting, and I was like, man, it's just life, like you have a different kind of grind. The question is it a grind that you're enjoying, that you're getting something out of, that you're feeling fulfilled, you're not hating life.
That's exactly right. Yeah, if you love what you're doing and you feel passionate and you have that ownership and fulfillment, the grind is worth it, right? Like right now I'm busier than I've been probably in my entire life. I have Heron and Pine, which I run completely by myself. I do everything: social, PR, website, all of it, sales, fulfillment, the whole thing. And then also doing Web Upgrade full time. And then I guess I just like to work too much, because we're actually with the same person I am joined Web Upgrade with. We're actually building out a development shop for like applications within a venture capital firm. Wow. So there's just a lot of moving pieces, but it's all very exciting. It's awesome.
That's really cool. On Heron and Pine, HeronandPine.com, heronandpine.com, like the bird and the tree.
That's exactly right.
Where'd the name come from?
So the name is an interesting story. So I was inspired to start all of this actually because of my grandmother. Oh. She was a really strong woman who she immigrated here from China, and she basically had to kind of figure out what she was going to do, how to make a living for her family, and just really grinded. She got into the real estate market, made a name for herself actually within Ladera Heights,
Oh.
And really, fought for a lot of people who couldn't get homes at the time to be able to do so. So
Yeah.
she was just a really inspiring woman who was a big part of this. And she, passed away right before basically I kind of decided to do this. And I was like, I really want to do something to honor her, and to I know she's always wanted me to push myself to kind of do my own thing. So I started to think about what are some ideas that I would be passionate about to really launch this and just go for it. Like, life's too short to keep saying I want to be an entrepreneur and not doing it. So let's just go for it. And I've always loved hats, and I wanted to provide a semi, affordable and high quality option, and went for it. And the name was actually, my grandma used to have a picture on her wall, in her entryway, and it had herons, like the bird, and pine trees. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I like the way it sounds. And then I was kind of looking up what it meant, and it actually stands for resilience, heron and pine, and kind of being empowered to do those things. And I was like, that is so fitting, because I'm inspired by someone who did all these amazing things, had resilience and really the confidence to push on, and felt really natural to use it. So that's how it came to be.
That's amazing. I love that so much. I love the company so much. I have so many questions. I'm going to boil it down to just one.
Okay.
But you design a hat. Does that mean you're drawing it, or does that mean you're actually getting a machine out and making it? Like, how does this work? I don't even know.
Yeah, so I don't make the hats myself. That would be a whole
You have a
other
production
list,
facility,
maybe
right?
Eventually. That's correct. Yeah, so I do the design piece. Some of it will start with, at times I'll kind of draw some ideas out, or I'll look at some existing hat bodies that are made to see which ones I like, and then adding in how you want the brim to be. So do you want it to be straight? Do you want it to have curved up edges? Do you want it to be concave down? Kind of thinking through all of those components, coming up with the color palette. Sometimes you can actually, you can get some of your own colors created and mixed. So playing with that's always fun. Doing all of the trim. So do you want to do ribbons? Do you want to do a leather band? Should it be removable? Should it be attached? Like all of these kind of minor details, kind of thinking through all of those. And then once the designs are kind of locked in, getting it created by the production company. And then it's lots of samples, honestly, to get it right. Right now I'm trying to work through my straw hat line, and that has been quite a process of lots and lots of samples. So hopefully soon.
Is this the thing, you got a giant inventory just waiting to go, or are you making these on order?
Yeah, I have a decent amount of inventory. They're not on order, just because if I made them myself, that may be a plausible model, but it's just right now, since I'm purely doing design, we have inventory.
That's great. This is really impressive and really, really cool.
Thank
Everything
you.
looks really, really great. And I love the whole story. Congratulations on it. I wish you so much future success, in addition to all the web upgrade stuff. I mean, this is cool. And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Engineer who designs and makes your own hats, and also will help you with your SEO.
Exactly. Yes.
Trying to come up with the byline.
Start pitching myself. I know it's there's just too many. I've bitten off a lot of different things to do right now, but I wouldn't ask for anything else. So
it's awesome.
It's amazing.
It's awesome. If you're willing to play along, I have a couple last final questions for you, and then I want to go to something I've always wanted to do in our podcast, and I've never been good at it, but I remembered this time, and I'm going to try to make it happen for this year.
Okay.
We're going to end with a lightning round of questions, just for fun stuff.
Oh boy.
I know.
They used to do this on K-Rock or something. I feel like I used to hear this. Okay.
Yes. Same idea.
I'm nervous now.
I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm prepping you for that. But before we get to lightning round, thinking back on your time at USC, what's one memory that just sticks out to you, as far as I remember that day, or I remember that thing that I always did?
Okay, that's a very hard question, because there's so many good memories.
I know, I'm trying to make it as broad as possible, the thing that pops up.
I would say probably something that's only happened once, which is why I think it stays in my memory so strongly. And it does have to do with football, which is so typical USC.
Well, yeah, it's big. It's a big part of your brain, because it's a big day. The scope of a football day is a big day.
It totally is. I want to say it was probably my junior year, and we were playing Stanford at home, and it was pretty much looking like an upset. We were not playing very well. We were down. It was the fourth quarter. Just really not a great game, but we were kind of hanging in there enough to be there. And we thought it was pretty much over. And then the last I want to say at a couple minutes or even a couple seconds, I'd have to look it up, we won. And the entire student section just stormed the field. And I feel like that like never happens. And so we all just like ran down there, we're celebrating. And it just like was this moment of like camaraderie and excitement that has just stuck with me. It was such an amazing memory.
It's an odd feeling as a spectator to say, we did it. I'm like, we didn't do anything, but like, it sure felt like it, right? Like it sure felt like your emotions were with them the whole time. And when it happens, it's a cool thing.
Exactly.
When you ever make your way back to campus, or let's say I'm saying, hey, I need you to come to campus for some sort of particular reason, what are the things you need to see? What are the things you need to drive by? Where do you need to eat? What when you're going back?
Man, you know it's funny because we didn't have the beautiful USC Village that is now there, and I see it with all these like nice restaurants, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that used to be this like dingy food court with like really
the UV. Don't knock
like
the UV.
Korean.
Don't knock Sandwich Island. Sandwich Island
all the time.
Sandwich Island in the UV was the vibe, or the Mongolian barbecue. That's
what
man.
I was gonna say. I used to eat at that Mongolian barbecue all the time, so I was very sad when that wasn't there anymore.
It's just old 1970s, like that was the like. Now that it's gone, it's like, oh, I can't believe that's gone. Like, but it was it back in the day.
It was cool at the time. I would say, what do I eat when I go there? I mean, I'm usually there for game day. Realistically, I've gone a couple other times here and there. So I always buy a victory dog off of vendors who are just selling
street vendors,
hot dogs.
Bacon wrapped hot dog.
Definitely my go-to.
Some people call them collie dogs. Some people call them bacon dogs. Some people call it LA street dogs. Some people call them victory dogs. If you're a USC person, sometime of recent years, I've noticed that your particular generation calls them victory dogs, but I've heard all of these across the board.
Yeah, so definitely a victory dog. We used to always frequent Bacaro, which is a couple streets away. But now they have, they've kind of franchised out a little bit. So there's other versions of it around, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's become a big thing.
Yeah, so that's always a good one too, if we're looking for something a little bit nicer than the victory dog. And then places to go. I mean, honestly, I'm usually there for some good tailgates. My dad and I actually got like a joint brick in the Viterbi area because we still donate. So we always like to go and see that, which is kind of fun and like a cute thing that we get to share.
You have a brick in the quad? Cool.
Exactly. So we do that, the Tommy Trojan's a classic. Awesome. I think that's kind of it.
Awesome. And you're in LA, so it's not like you're like checking out LA stuff. You're always in LA, so that's good stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Before I get to, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything I can help you with, or any questions you have for me? Like, I feel like you've been helping me so much with this and being so great with your time.
Yeah. I mean, not really. It's like good to see you. It's been such a long time. So nothing really comes to mind.
All right. Well, I just want to give you the opportunity before I light you up with our lightning round questions. Are you ready?
I think maybe.
Okay. The clock starts now. Texting or talking?
Texting.
Favorite day of the week?
Saturday.
Favorite city in the US besides the one you live
in? New York City.
Ooh. Nickname your parents used to call you?
My mom used to call me Petunia.
Last song you downloaded. Let's just say the last song you actually searched for and played.
Oh my gosh. My friend manages this really cool band called Private Island, and I listen to all their things. So it's probably that. Good plug. Check them out.
Sounds fancy, Private Island. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Speak every language.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
How long does it take for you to get ready?
Oh boy. Let's go with 40 minutes.
Wow.
My boyfriend's probably like laughing. You probably can hear it. He's like, no, it's probably more than that.
Even in your tone, it's not true. Like, let's go with 40 minutes.
Well, so on a good day. Yeah.
Scale of 1 to 10. How good of a driver are you?
6.
That's also one where you're like, look at that. It's the same
I'm not
tone.
a very good parallel parker. And we live in LA and you constantly have to. So everyone has a backup camera, they're cheating. I'm like old school looking back.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Oh, wow. Okay. Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is blank.
Amazing.
Okay, good. At what age do you want to retire?
Oh, man. 60? I feel
Okay.
like I'll always want to have something.
Yeah,
I like just love it.
You're gonna
So,
have like 3 startups at
yeah,
retirement.
exactly.
Invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
And is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
No. Oh my gosh. Did the VSAs come up with these? Those are cute. I like that.
That is really cute. I would love to give them credit. It is literally me Googling lightning round questions and finding one that I thought was appropriate.
I love it. That's awesome.
Awesome. Jackie, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It has been a pleasure to see you again and to hear about all your successes. I can't wait to hear more about Heron and Pine. I can't wait to hear more about, I didn't say Heron and Pine. I said Pined for some reason. heronandpine.com for some really awesome hats, to see how an engineer starts up a hat company and web upgrade and all of your success there. Congratulations. I hope I see you sometime soon in the near future.
Yes.
In person where there's actually something going on. We'll have to get maybe a group together, but thank you. I can't thank you enough. I'll let you know when we put this up. I think it's going to go up this Sunday. So
awesome. I'm so excited. Well, thank you again for having me. This was super fun.
Thank you. All right.
All right.
Bye. All right. So what do you think, Emily?
Oh, wow. It's incredible hearing Jackie's story. And I mean, she just does it all. She like the hats, I looked them up online. They're beautiful. And
Yeah,
just,
Heron and Pine.
yeah, people always say that like they always say in Viterbi, like if you're an engineer, you can do anything. And she literally is like the best example of that.
Absolutely. You literally can do anything. And like, again, I think I mentioned in the episode, but then I've since talked to my wife and she's like, oh, I've seen that site. Oh no, I've already been shopping on that site. Like my wife already knew about Heron and Pine. And she's like, yeah. And I found out, she's like, yeah, I've actually been looking into like designing my own hats. And so I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. This is all weird now to me. I'm like, so who knew? I didn't know this was a thing. I guess it's like a trend now that people are like designing their own hats. Did you know about this?
No, I feel like I'm not very up with the trends, but
I am definitely not.
Yeah, I definitely really liked her hats though. I feel like they were stylish, but like pretty classic. I feel like even my grandma would like if I was wearing one of those or something.
Yeah. Well, I think you should go for one. I think you should get one, start rocking it on campus and then start promoting Heron and Pine. What were you most surprised about in Jackie's conversation or in her journey? Not knowing you didn't know her before.
Yeah, I didn't know her before. I guess I was surprised about like her journey into USC, I guess, because it was very different from mine.
Yeah.
Like I kind of stumbled across USC. It was like, USC was an option. And then I came here and I loved it. And it was totally a surprise. I didn't expect you to come here really at all. And then hers, like she's born in a song girl like dress. So like I can't imagine having that amount of like Trojan family like coursing through my veins.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really, really weird to see that. On one hand, like I love seeing kids like all, ready to go like that. On the other hand, I'm like, oh, should I put like that much pressure on my kid to like feel indoctrinated into it? Although they have fun too, it's this weird balance. But hey, everybody does their own thing, and it's super cool to see kids all like pumped up about USC stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about the lightning round questions? Should we keep doing those?
Yeah, I liked them, honestly. They were like fun. I think it might be interesting putting it at the beginning because I feel like it kind of lets people like get loose a little bit.
Okay.
And relax a little bit.
Okay.
I really liked the questions, especially the animal crackers one.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'll do that same round for our next one. I'm debating in my head. I'm 50-50 on putting them at the front. But I'll see. We'll think about it a little bit more because we're gonna do another one later today. Well, anyway, Jackie is so cool. And as a reminder to everyone listening, if you Well, let's pump up both of her businesses. Webupgrade.com. Check that out. She's the chief operating officer at Web Upgrade. If you have businesses or things that you need to do or your parents do, and if you're looking for some really cool hats, get heronandpine.com. Some awesome hats, and hopefully she'll get those straw hats out soon. She says she's working on that design.
Oh yeah,
which is awesome. And hopefully we will see Jackie sometime real soon back on campus so that we can say hi in person. Emily, what are you getting ready for classes? Classes are starting this week.
Yeah, classes start in a couple weeks now.
A couple weeks. I thought it was this week. Am I crazy?
No, it's on the 23rd. That's when classes start.
I'm so confused because I'm coming back to campus next week, and then I'm seeing people move in next week, and then also my daughter starts school next week. So I think in my world everything is next week, but classes start the 23rd. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's actually super cool. Campus is so busy right now. Everyone is on campus. I've been studying I always study in the village. That's my go-to spot. I might be a plant or something. Like I need the sun to like recharge. So I study in the village, and it's so much busier now. And I see all these like, I call them kids, college students with their parents.
My favorite thing in the world when seniors start calling freshmen kids. Look at all these kids. Look at all these kids. They're like 3 years younger than me.
I feel like I call everyone a kiddo. I'm like, oh yeah, this kiddo over here. But yeah, it was just great. And I volunteer at the hospital right next to the Lorenzo, which is another place that a lot of people live at USC, and they have so many people moving in.
To Lorenzo,
yeah, it's cool. I'm excited.
That is great. That is really great. It's great to hear. There's a lot of energy. I mean, I'm just seeing it on emails, the amount of stuff that's going on. We are trying to get our operation kind of slowly back up and running for some in-person stuff. No in-person events at all, but just to kind of be present a little bit more. And we'll slowly start making our way back. I'll let you all know out there listening when we're going to start doing in-person stuff, but not yet. Just we have lots of virtual programming. So if you're ever interested in learning more about the school and want to check in with us, our virtual programming is always ready to go. You can go to viterbi.link/events, viterbi.link/events if you ever want to sign up for anything. And when we have in-person events, we will also update that page to make sure that you're able to sign up. But our virtual sessions go on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4:00, and Fridays have transfer sessions every other Friday. So good stuff there. Anything else going on in your week this week, Emily, or anything else we should tell people about?
Not really. I mean, it seems like most people's internships have wound down. Most of my friends are taking the week off. And my projects are winding down too. I just finished this project I've been working on for like 9 months, and I sent it in to be printed, and now there's nothing else I can do until it's back. And it's really liberating, actually.
Oh, good. You feel like that weight off your shoulders, got like a little bit of downtime before you kind of jump into classes?
Yeah, this project was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. It was just so long, and I didn't know how to do it at all. But I feel like I learned so much, and now like if I had to do the same work again, it would take probably like 3 weeks. So
well, there you go.
I've gotten a lot more efficient at doing it.
Yeah, that's basically life. The first time you do something, it's going to take forever. And then they're like, oh, wait, I know how to do this now. I can get through this. Yeah.
So now I have more iterations of the project, and I'm not dreading them anymore. I'm really excited to do it now.
Okay, good. Well, I teased at the front end that I was going to tell you what I was doing this weekend.
Yeah.
And I just looked at the calendar, and again, my weeks are way off. It's next weekend. I'll tell you anyway, because maybe this will be like a 2-week buildup, because next week we'll talk about it's going to happen. But next Saturday, I'm going to do goat yoga.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I've never done this. I'm being pulled into this. So we shall see how this is going to go. But this is a 1-week warning to goat yoga. And then next week, it'll be a 1-day warning. And then we'll see how, then I'll let you know how it ended up.
That's actually so funny, because I was talking to one of my campers about this at Adams Camp. And I was like, yeah, people do like yoga with cats and dogs and like goats. And she was like, but why would you want to do that?
Great question. I have no idea. I've seen people do this other than it's just like goats are cute and that you get to play with them. And I have no attraction to that. But we'll see. I don't know. I do not know. Other things happening this week. One thing I will be on campus for is the new student welcome. And so if you're one of our incoming students, the new student welcome is Thursday, August 19th. And come over and say hi to me, because I've never seen any of you in person, and I'd love to see you all in person. And I will be there. I'm excited to see you all there. I don't really know what I'm doing there, but I will be present at some point.
I'm there. I'm going to be there too. I also do not know what I'm doing.
We haven't received our instructions, have we?
I think I'm on a panel, but I'm not sure like what I wear. I've never done an in-person panel. I've only done panels on Zoom.
Have you really? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We have to have talks about that.
It's a big moment for me.
Everything's weird. I think I said this in the interview, or I don't know. Now I don't know who I've been talking to, but I was saying, like, seniors are the only people on campus that you are the only group of people on campus that have ever been on campus for 1 year.
Yeah.
That's it. You have a full year experience.
I have a year and a half.
Year and a half. I'm sorry, but you have one full year experience. You know what I mean? Like, you've never done spring semester twice.
There are so many things I miss too. Like, I'm hoping the farmers market comes back. I've gotten no word on that.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you knew what Good Karma Cafe was.
Yeah, that's what I agree. Like, have take Tupperware and stuff like that, or
right. They moved to Colorado, but essentially it was like this vegan all you can eat, like not even a cafe. It was like a pop-up. They would just like bring vegan food, and you'd pay like $3 to get unlimited vegan food, and you could put it all in like Tupperwares and stuff, as much as could fit on your plate. Mm-hmm. And that was like a very steady stream of food for me, and that's gone too. So I'm kind of bummed about Good Karma.
Well, maybe this will inspire you to cook your own, and maybe this will inspire you to start your own Good Karma Cafe.
I'm just thinking maybe this was their ultimate plan.
Yeah, it's Good Karma reincarnated. That's the name of
it. I like that. Yeah, right? Maybe I'll work on that.
Work on that little pop-up. And you don't have to do it every week, just like, every little while, like Good Karma reincarnated, get some money and start cooking and go from there.
Oh yeah, they have the best salad dressing. Definitely plug for their website, buying the salad dressing.
Awesome. Well, let's get out of the way. Emily, thank you so much for being here and doing this. And for all of you listening, thank you for joining us. We will see you next week with a whole new episode.